deal with this.
A princess wakes up in a room and sees that her hands have been cuffed. She looks surprised by this, but as she wonders what happened, she gets flashbacks from the previous night, in which some men hit her head with a heavy object before she was cuffed and brought to the room. She eventually leaves the bed and looks around the window to see if there's a way out. There happens to be an open window in the room, but as the princess goes to check it, she sees that it's far from the ground and even leads to the sea near the castle. She then tries to check the door to see if she can open it, but it turns out that it has been locked. Suddenly, she notices that some men are trying to enter the room, so she runs back to the bed and pretends to be asleep. Just then, two soldiers enter the room and talk about how the princess is still asleep. As one of them goes close to her, she opens her eyes and hits his head. This gets the man pissed, and as she gets out of the bed, she dislocates one of her fingers to be able to remove the cuffs on one of her hands. The soldiers look shocked by this, and as they ask if she really wants to fight them, she doesn't say anything. Before one of them attacks her, she hits him again and also manages to knock him down. The fight goes on for a while until she kills him, and this leaves his partner shocked. He then attacks her and initially gets the upper hand, but the princess eventually beats him up. As he then stands near the window, he asks the princess if she really thinks she'll make it to the bottom of the castle without getting caught. She doesn't seem to care about this, and she knocks him out of the window after saying she'll see him at the bottom. Following this, the princess uncuffs her other hand and hears that another soldier is about to enter the room. She then picks up a big hammer and slams it on him just as he enters. While he's on the ground, she hits him with it again to ensure that he's dead. After this, she leaves the two dead soldiers inside the room and locks the door. She then walks around and goes into another room. As she looks out of the window, she sees her parents, the king and queen, and her younger sister, Violet, being led to the front of the castle to kneel down, along with some other people who work for the royal family. The princess looks shocked by this, but she just keeps watching what's happening at the bottom of the castle. Almost immediately, a man named Julius walks out with his loyal aide, Moira, to meet the royal family. Julius says he didn't want things to get violent, but the king doesn't believe this. He mentions that Julius's father wouldn't be happy with what he's doing, but Julius doesn't seem to care. The king says that Julius' father was a diplomat, and that Julius should be like him. Julius thinks his father was just weak, and he says he'll never be like that. Violet then interrupts him and says he can't have her sister, but Julius walks up to her and tells her that he'll eventually get married to the princess because he always gets what he wants. Violet spits in his face, and as he looks pissed, Moira threatens to show the young girl what her whip can do. Julius tells Moira to leave her alone, and he says it shouldn't really be a surprise that the king has wayward children.
Like a child should.
He adds that the king has no respect for the order of things, and he has trampled the kingdom's cherished tradition. He also mentions that the king welcomed outsiders into their kingdom instead of conquering them, and this has made them look weak in the eyes of their enemies. The king says that Julius can't rule people with fear, and that no one will follow him blindly. Julius disagrees with this, and he mentions that people don't usually know what's good for them until they see it. He adds that the people want to see a strong person as their leader, and that's what he'll give them when he claims the throne later that day. He then tells his men to take the king and his family to their cells.
You get them! Move!
As they're taken away, the princess looks sad and says it's her fault. After she sits on the floor, she remembers what really happened that led to Julius's decision to forcefully take the throne from her father. It turns out that a few days earlier, the king decided to get the princess married to Julius so that he could become the heir to the throne. The king actually chose to do this because he doesn't have a son who would take his position after his death, and since he knows Julius to be from a noble home, he decided to let him be the heir through marriage. Interestingly, the princess didn't like Julius, and on the day of their marriage ceremony, she rejected him in front of everyone, and this got him pissed. In the present day, the princess starts thinking of what to do next, but she notices that a soldier is about to enter the room. She quickly hides inside a bathtub, and a masked soldier enters the room to take a leak. After he's done, he hears bubbling water in the room, but since he believes there's no one inside with him, he heads out to meet the other soldiers. The The princess then heads out of the bathtub and tears a part of her long dress before leaving the room. As she tries to make her way down to find her family, the masked soldier sees and grabs her. He appears to be very strong, and the princess struggles to free herself from his hold. After she eventually falls to the ground, she stands up to the soldier and puts up a good fight against him. During the fight, he mentions that someone needs to put her in her place, and the princess says she's already used to people telling her that. After this, she goes on to beat up the soldier and use the sharp end of his mask to kill him. As she then stares at the mask while holding it, she remembers a time from her past when her teacher, Lin, was showing her how to fight with a sword. During the training, Lin tells the princess that a true warrior is not defined by how she fights, but by what she's fighting for. Almost immediately, the queen comes over to meet them in the field to ask what they're doing. She doesn't seem to like the fact that her daughter is learning how to fight instead of focusing on her training to become a proper lady. Lin says that the princess is a smart girl, and she believes she'll be able to do more than one training at a time. The queen likes this idea, but she tells Lin to make sure their sword training is not close to the castle because the king won't like it. The princess looks happy about this, and Lin also smiles because they'll be able to continue their training. In the present day, the princess throws down the soldier's mask and walks away from the scene. Elsewhere, the head of Julius's soldiers, Kerr, sees one of his men's body wash up to the front of the castle. He then takes the body inside the castle to show it to Julius. As Julius asks what happened, Kerr says he saw the body outside the castle, and it seems that the soldier fell from the building. Moira sees the bruises on the soldier's face and suggests that someone might have pushed him down from the castle. Kerr doesn't believe this is possible, and he tells Julius not to worry because everything is going according to plan. Julius then asks about the princess, and Kerr says she's chained to her bed at the top of the castle. Julius doesn't sound satisfied with this information, and he tells Kerr to check up on the princess again. He adds that if there's a vigilante on the loose, he wants Kerr to handle the situation or he'll lose his position as head of the soldiers. As Julius and Moira walk away, Kerr calls one of his soldiers to go to the top of the castle to check up on the princess. The soldier looks shocked because it will take him a while to get to the top, but Kerr tells him to go upstairs immediately. Shortly after, the princess makes her way into another room and decides to rest for a few minutes. Almost immediately, she hears someone about to enter the room, so she stands up to guard the door. As two men enter the room, she attacks them and ends up killing one of them. She then threatens to kill the other one if he doesn't tell her what Julius has done with her family. The soldier says he won't tell her anything, and even though she keeps threatening him, he still refuses to tell her where to find her family. She eventually kills him and heads out of the room to keep looking around the castle for her family. As some soldiers troop in from both sides of the hallway, the princess jumps out of the window and hangs just at the top. After the men leave the hallway, the princess tries to climb back up, but it turns out that the soldier sent to look for her is currently resting just by the window. The princess quickly hides so that he won't see her, but as he leaves, she heads out and looks relieved because she nearly fell off the building. Shortly after, she continues moving around the castle and enters a room where Julius's soldiers are stealing some expensive items. The princess manages to sneak past them without being seen, and she eventually enters her room to pick up her special sword from under her bed. As she looks at it, she remembers a time from her past when she was training with Lin. On that day, the princess struggled to fight well against her teacher, and Lin kept complaining about how she lacked focus and wasn't fighting from her heart. As the princess is about to fight again, Lin's uncle, Kai, who also happens to be one of the king's advisors, joins them. The princess looks shocked by this, but Lin mentions that her uncle was the one who trained her. She adds that she wants the princess to fight her and Kai. The princess doesn't understand this, but she agrees to take on the challenge. Unfortunately, she easily gets beaten during the first round, and Lin insists that she needs to fight from her heart. Almost immediately, she fights bravely and manages to take down Kai, who looks surprised. Kai then tells Lin that she's right about the princess having a warrior's heart. He also gives her his special sword as a gift, but the princess says she can't accept it. Kai insists and mentions that he's giving it to her because he would only entrust it to the hands of a true warrior. In the present day, she picks up the sword and wears a pair of boots before heading out through a secret chamber. As she's trying to find her way out, she hears Julius telling Moira about his plans to take over the kingdom.
Then why not take the throne by force?
Moira asks why he's wasting his time with the princess when he could just take over the throne without her. Julius notices that she's jealous, but he says he's just following their traditions because it's what people love to see. He adds that he's also trying to get married to the princess so that no one will ever challenge his right to the throne. Moira then mentions that his invasion of the castle the previous night was a real show of power. Julius says he can sense that the people are terrified about what happened, as he says that he'll keep them more terrified when he kills the king after his coronation. The princess looks shocked to hear this, and she realizes that Julius has no good plans for her family. Shortly after, one of Julius's soldiers comes over to call him because the king wants to see him.
What is it?
As he leaves, the princess looks disappointed because she was hoping he'd lean on the wall so that she'll be able to kill him. Meanwhile, the soldier sent to check up on the princess reaches the room she was locked in. He nearly runs out of breath while standing outside the room, and as he notices that the door is locked, he just checks the keyhole to see if everything is fine inside. Interestingly, it turns out that the princess actually covered one of the dead soldiers on the bed, while she left the other one backing the door to make it look like there's nothing wrong inside the room. The soldier sees this and believes that the princess is still chained to her bed, so he heads back downstairs to tell Kerr what he saw. Elsewhere, the king tells Julius to reconsider what he's doing, but he says he won't do that. He then mentions that the king promised to let him marry his daughter, but he refused to honor his word because his daughter felt she wasn't ready for marriage. The king tells Julius that they can still find a solution to the situation and that committing treason will only lead to more bloodshed. Julius says that a wedding isn't an act of treason, and he tells his men to take the king away. Coincidentally, the princess crawls into a nearby room and sees an armored suit inside. She initially looks worried that one of the soldiers might be wearing the suit, but she eventually forgets about it and keeps moving. Unfortunately, it turns out that there's actually someone wearing the suit, and he attacks her. The princess dodges his attacks and also tries to hurt him, but she fails to do so because the suit is quite strong and impenetrable. Since there's nothing else she can do, the princess decides to set him on fire, and this works well in hurting him. Meanwhile, the soldier sent to check up on the princess gets to the bottom of the castle and tells Kerr that she's still well guarded in her room. Almost immediately, the soldier in the armored suit falls off the building and lands next to Kerr, Julius, Moira, and some other soldiers. Julius is shocked by this, and he grabs Kerr while looking really pissed. Since it's clear that there's a vigilante inside the castle, Julius tells Kerr to handle the situation as soon as possible. After he walks away, Kerr tells his men to search the castle floor by floor.
You.
Before they enter, Moira asks the soldier who went to check up on the princess if he saw the armored soldier on his way down. As he says he didn't, Moira mentions that it seems they're dealing with someone who knows the castle very well. Kerr doesn't seem to care about this, and he says he can't pretend to listen to her anymore because Julius is no longer around. As he insults her, Moira gets pissed and uses the sharp end of her whip to kill Kerr. She then tells his soldiers to make sure they find and kill the vigilante. As they all head inside, it doesn't take long for some of them to find the princess, but she fights quite well against them. Unfortunately, more soldiers attack her, and she gets hurt during the fight. Before they can kill her, the princess jumps down from the hallway and lands badly on the ground. One of the soldiers follows her, but she quickly hurts him and runs away. As more soldiers are about to come for her, the princess jumps out of the window and hangs on to a banner outside the castle. She then uses it to get to another room, after which she hides in a closet and tends to her wounds. While she's there, she remembers the day her dad decided that she had to get married to Julius. On that day, the king complained to the queen that since they have no son or heir to the throne, they have to move fast in trying to get the princess married. The princess suddenly interrupts their conversation and tells the king king to make her a knight instead. He looks disappointed to see that she wants to be a warrior, and he also blames the queen for condoning something like that. He then tells the princess that he can't make her a knight because she's his daughter and he won't let her be killed in a war. He adds that the princess needs to get married to Julius because there's currently no heir to the throne. The princess tells him to make her his heir, but he says that things don't work that way. He adds that Julius is from a noble home and he'll be a good husband, but the princess doesn't seem interested in this.
I'm not a piece of property to be traded.
The king looks disappointed and says he always thought she would be mature enough to understand what needs to be done, but that he has now realized that she's just a selfish girl who only thinks about herself. He then says that the entire kingdom is relying on her to do her duty, but the princess still doesn't look happy that she'll have to marry a man she barely knows. In the present day, the princess hears someone entering the room and prepares to defend herself. As the person checks the closet, the princess attacks her, but it turns out to be Lin. The princess looks relieved and asks Lin what she's doing there, and she says she has been trying to find her. As Lin sees that she's hurt, she says she has something for the princess wounds. The princess then asks Lin what really happened the previous night, and she says that Julius just stormed the castle unexpectedly. She adds that he was quite ruthless and he killed the king's guards. She also mentions that she and a few people were able to escape, but many others were captured by Julius and his soldiers. The princess says it's her fault, but Lin mentions that thinking like that won't help them.
There's only one unguarded way in.
The princess then asks about her family, and Lin says they're in a cell in the castle's main tower. She adds that there's only one unguarded entrance to the place, and the princess realizes that she'll have to go through the sewer to save her family. Lin then suggests passing through the kitchen to get there, and the princess agrees to do this. As they get to the kitchen, they see that some of Julius's soldiers are harassing the chefs inside there. They eventually appear before the men and start fighting them. They fight quite well and kill two of the men, but as the last one is about to stab the princess, Moira shows up and uses her whip to stop him. The princess is shocked by this, but Moira asks if she can see the mess she has caused. She adds that all the princess had to do was get married to Julius, but she refused. Following this, they start fighting, and Lin also helps the princess. Unfortunately, Moira manages to grab the princess's neck with her whip, and she starts strangling her. Lin fights her to stop this, and she successfully gets her to free the princess. Before Moira can do anything else, Lin creates a fire barrier between them and runs away with the princess. She then tells the princess to go through the sewer to save her family while she stays back to deal with Moira. After the princess leaves, Lin goes back to meet Moira so they can continue their fight. Meanwhile, the princess goes through the sewer and reaches the cell where her family is being held. The guards are shocked to see her, but she beats them up and the king looks impressed. After she frees her parents and her sister, the princess tries to lead them out of the castle, but someone appears before her and knocks her out. When she wakes up, she sees her parents and Violet kneeling in front of her. Julius and Moira also show up with Lin, and the princess looks shocked. Julius then says she hasn't been behaving like a princess, but he'll change that soon. The princess bites him as he touches her, and he slaps her out of anger. Violet tells him not to hurt her sister, but Julius says that they both lack manners. He then asks what happened to the princess that made her turn out the way she is. The princess says it's how she was born, but Julius mentions that she was born to be his wife. The princess says she's actually looking forward to it because she'll make him miserable until she eventually kills him. Julius doesn't sound happy to hear this, and he says that he'll have to consider another option instead of the princess. As he looks at Violet and talks about her being his wife, the king tells him not to try it, but he says he will. The princess then signals Lin to take Violet away while she distracts Julius and his men. Following this, she attacks Moira and one of the soldiers, and as they try to stop her, Lin escapes with Violet. Julius figures this out too late, and as he looks pissed, one of his soldiers grabs the princess and throws her out of the window. She lands in the sea and appears to be unconscious as she drowns. Suddenly, she starts thinking of her family and everything Lin taught her, and this triggers her to wake up and free herself before swimming to the surface. Back at the castle, Julius gets the king and queen and all their advisors to sit down in the chapel to wait for the moment he'll get married to Violet, who still still hasn't been found. After the princess makes it back into the castle and starts looking for Lynn and Violet, a soldier appears before her. Before he attacks her, Violet pushes down an armored suit to help her sister defeat the soldier. The princess looks happy to see Violet and Lynn, and she hugs them. She then talks about how she should have just agreed to marry Julius, but Lynn says he would have still turned out to be a bad person. As Violet hugs the princess and says she needs to stop Julius, she agrees to do this. She and Lynn then take Violet to a secret storehouse that is filled with weapons. After Lynn and the princess get everything they need,
What do you think?
Violet tells her sister that she also wants to fight. The princess promises to teach Violet everything she needs to know, but she says that her sister needs to stay back so that she'll be safe. Violet agrees to do this, and the princess leaves the storehouse with Lynn. At the chapel, Julius tells the queen to call Violet to come out for her wedding, but she says she can't do that. Almost immediately, the princess and Lynn start fighting the soldiers outside the chapel, and everyone inside hears what's happening. As Julius sees the princess, he jokes about how she keeps surviving the attempts to kill her, but Moira says it won't be for long. Just then, Violet sneaks into the chapel and gives Kai a sword. Unfortunately, she makes a sound while crawling under the benches, and Julius hears this. After looking around, he eventually finds her and drags her to the altar. As he orders the priest to marry them, the princess and Lynn see this and look disappointed, but they decide to split up so they can go to the chapel faster.
Come on, then!
Before the priest does anything, Lynn enters the chapel and disrupts the ceremony. Julius looks pissed by this, and Moira tells the guards to attack Lynn, but she fights them quite well. Kai then tells all the guests to find a way to escape while he joins the fight. Meanwhile, Moira goes outside to meet the princess, and she says she really underestimated her. The princess says she's used to it already, and they begin their fight. Elsewhere, the queen saves Violet, but as the king tries to attack Julius, he gets stabbed. The crown also falls from his head, but before Julius picks it up, Lynn stops him. He tells his men to attack her, and as they do this, she gets distracted. Julius then stabs her from behind, and Kai looks shocked. Meanwhile, the princess initially struggles to beat Moira, but as she eventually gets the upper hand in the fight, she grabs her opponent's whip and uses it to kill her. She then runs into the chapel and looks sad to see that Julius has stabbed Lynn. As he wears the crown, the princess tells her family to get to safety while she fights him. After they leave, the princess jokes about how he finally got her to come to the altar, and he says he always gets what he wants. As they start fighting, Julius tries to destabilize her by saying that her parents weren't happy when they gave birth to her because they wanted a boy. The princess doesn't seem affected by this, but as they continue fighting, he gets the upper hand and beats her up. He then says he was going to make Violet's life much easier until she tried to mess with him. As he sees her family and the other people from the kingdom standing outside the chapel, he takes the princess outside and makes her kneel before him. He then says he'll make an example out of her so that everyone will know that he won't be belittled, as he also talks about how he'll rule the kingdom with aggression because the throne rightfully belongs to him. The princess watches him and thinks about the things Lynn taught her. Suddenly, she snatches the sword from his hand and cuts off his head while saying that the throne was never his. Everyone is shocked by this, and the princess picks up the crown and gives it to her dad. He looks proud of her and orders his guards to ring the chapel bells until midnight because an heir has been born. He then tells her to kneel before him so he can knight her. After he does this, he tells everyone that the daughters in his kingdom will now be allowed to make their own fates, just like the princess did. He then looks at her and says he's really proud of her. He also says sorry for not believing in her earlier, and the princess looks happy to see that the king now trusts her to be his heir. The king then holds her hand and calls her the future leader of the kingdom, and everyone cheers for her. The princess is happy about this, but she suddenly sees Lynn being brought to the scene by Kai after he treated her. The princess runs to hug her and looks happy to see that she's alive. Lynn then congratulates her on becoming the heir, and everyone rejoices with them. Even though the king didn't initially believe that his daughter was capable of ruling the kingdom, kingdom because she's a girl. The princess proved him wrong by defeating Julius and his soldiers. This also made the king realize that she had been his rightful heir all along, and he even decided to give the daughters in his kingdom the freedom to choose their own paths. This taught him that true strength and leadership are not determined by gender, but by courage and determination.